Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode corporate filings so you don't have to. Today we're diving into a proxy statement, but don't worry, it's not as boring as it sounds. This one has details on who's running a company called Solaris Energy Infrastructure, who gets paid what, and a few other surprises we'll unearth along the way. Solaris Energy Infrastructure is getting ready for its annual meeting in May 2025. Stockholders, the people who own shares in the company, will get to vote on some important decisions. 3 board members are up for election. The company's choice of accounting firm needs to be approved, and there's a vote on executive pay or what the top bosses make. If you're a shareholder, you can vote online, by phone, or by mailing in a proxy card. The company is using what's called Notice and Access, where they mostly send out notices online instead of paper copies to save money. Also, if you want to submit a proposal or nominate someone for the board next year, there are deadlines you need to know, sometime in late January to mid-February 2026. Let's look at who owns this company. This table shows the big shareholders. Yorktown Energy Partners has a big chunk of the Class B stock, which controls a good portion of the votes. Then you have William Zartler, the chairman and CEO, who owns a mix of Class A and Class B stock. BlackRock and some investment firms like Encompass Capital and Summit Partners also own significant chunks of Class A shares. It's important to understand who the major players are because they have a big say in what happens at the company. Here's another important ownership table. This one shows how many shares the directors, the people on the board, and the top executives own. William Zartler as CEO has a significant amount. W. Howard Keenan Jr. also has a large chunk of Class B shares through Yorktown Energy Partners. What this means is that these people's interests are aligned with the company. Time to talk about who's running the show. The company has a board of directors divided into 3 classes, serving staggered 3-year terms. This year, it's time to elect 3 Class 2 directors. There are bios of all the board members. William Zartler, the CEO and chairman, has a long history in the energy industry. Laurie Argo has tons of financial and accounting experience. James Burke brings a lot of operating experience to the table. In general, the board has got experience in different aspects of the energy business and seem well qualified. Ray Walker was Chief Operating Officer at Encino Energy, and before that, he was in a leadership position at Range Resources. Cynthia Durrett has a long and impressive career in the energy industry. The board recommends voting for these Class 2 nominees, and it looks like they've all been determined to be independent, meaning they don't have any major conflicts of interest. The board has a few committees, and each of these has a certain function. The audit committee is responsible for financial accuracy. The compensation committee figures out how much the executives get paid, and the nominating and governance committee finds and recommends new board members. This is a really important section. The company has a policy to review any deals with people who have a close relationship with the company, like directors or major shareholders called related party transactions. These are reviewed by the audit committee to make sure they're fair to the company. One is that the company uses administrative services companies owned by William Zartler, and the company recognized revenues related to its service offering with THRC affiliates. Now for the juicy part, how much the executives make. The goal is to tie executive pay to how well the company performs and to keep the top people happy. To decide on pay, the compensation committee looks at market data, what similar companies are paying, and gets advice from compensation consultants or experts in pay. They try to target the middle range for pay, but they put a lot more emphasis on incentives, meaning how well the company does determines a big chunk of what the executives take home. They set short-term and long-term performance goals. Last year, almost everyone, about 96%, voted to approve the executive pay packages. The goals of the program are to align executive compensation to encourage executives to make the best decision possible for the company. The compensation committee has created a combination of equity, cash, and deferred compensation. Equity means shares, and deferred means that they cannot be used until some point in the future. This is to make sure that the goals of the executives are aligned with the goals of the shareholders. A big part of the executive pay is based on performance. About 60% of their bonus depends on hitting company goals like earnings or safety metrics, and 40% depends on how well they do as individuals. For 2024, the payout for executives is about 90% of the target because they missed some financial metrics but did well on operating metrics. For example, William Zartler, the CEO, received an annual incentive of $28,000. In connection with this, the NEOs received a one-time bonus for an exemplary effort, with amounts varying from around $55,000 to $21,000. In connection with this, the NEOs received a one-time bonus for an exemplary effort, with amounts varying from around $55,000 to $201,000. In connection with this, the NEOs received a one-time bonus for an exemplary effort, with amounts varying from around $55,000 to $211,000. Another big part of executive compensation is through something called the Long-Term Incentive Plan, or LTIP. This rewards executives with stock or stock-related benefits that vest or become usable over time. In this particular filing, a major component is called Performance-Based Restricted Stock Units, or PSUs, which represent a portion of the return and relative total shareholder return and relative total shareholder return, which measure the shareholder's total return and the company's total return relative to other similar companies in the market. For example, if the return is greater than 15%, then the executives get 200% of the return. The company also has what are called change in control severance agreements with its top executives. This means that if the company gets taken over and the executive loses their job or leaves for a good reason, they'll get a payout. Besides the usual salary and bonuses, the executives also get some other benefits, like contributions to their 401k retirement accounts. Okay, let's cut to the chase. How much did these people make? This is the money table. In 2024, William Zartler's total compensation was about $3.8 million, with a good portion of that coming from stock awards. Kyle Ramachandran made about $1.9 million, 1.9 and made about $1.2 million, and Cynthia Durrett $1.2 million, and Cynthia Durrett $1.2 million. The report contains the details of the company's equity compensation plan, TILP, which enables it to grant securities. There are about 4.7 million securities available for future issuance, making this plan a large portion of what's on the hands for the company. Here is an attempt to justify that big table, the CEO pay ratio. That's the ratio of the CEO's pay to the median employee's pay. For Solaris, the CEO makes about 36 times what the median employee makes. The audit committee basically vouches for the company's financials, saying they've reviewed everything and believe the financial statements are accurate points. So what's the overall story here? This proxy statement provides a look into Solaris Energy Infrastructure's governance and executive compensation. The company is trying to align executive pay with performance and shareholder interests. They rely heavily on market data and expert advice when setting compensation packages. The leadership appears qualified and the company's financial matters seem to be in order. However, a few things stand out. There are a number of payments to affiliates of the company's leadership, or as this is called, a related party transaction, which raises concerns for fairness and transparency. And as usual, the CEO is handsomely rewarded, especially when considering the ratio compared to a more median employee. Is Solaris Energy Infrastructure a good investment? I would say, as with any investment, the answer depends on your individual risk tolerance. Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe for more corporate decoding.